It's Saturday, March 14, 2026, and this is season 5, episode 9 of Two Guys on Politics, broadcast on the U.S. Arab Radio Network on WNZK AM 690 radio, as well as on YouTube at twoguysonpolitics.com. I'm Ray Hanania with my co-host, former Congressman Bill Lipinski, and in today's Two Guys on Politics video podcast, we're going to discuss a group of topics. First, the ongoing war in Iran of President Peace, Donald Trump, right? And then we're going to talk about the U.S. Senate race to succeed Dick Durbin. It's been really intense. In the second segment, we're going to look at the candidacy of Ted Dabrowski, who is running for governor on the Republican side of the election primary on March 17th. And he talks about one way to reduce property taxes by focusing in on the excessive salaries for administrators and superintendents at the state's 850 school districts. And then we'll talk a little bit more at the end of that segment about the huge amounts of money being spent in the election, much of it from dark money PACs or special interest PACs. I think there was a story this week that said it was over $60 million that are being spent in some of these races. It's just amazing. We're going to take a break and we'll be right back with our discussion. I'm Ray Hanania.
I'm Bill Lipinski, and this is Two Guys on Politics. And the next voice you will hear is the closest voice to Paul Harvey I have ever heard.
I read several biographies of Paul Harvey. He was a great commentator, and back in the day when news was really news, people really listened to that stuff, and they still had spin, they still had politics. But I don't think it's as mean and polarized back then as it is today.
I hope not. I don't think it was either. No.
Yeah, I hope not. So we're in the second week of the war in Iran.
Yes.
And how many wars do we have, by the way, that are going on? We got the Gaza war, which is being run by the Board of Peace that President Trump set up and took $10 billion from the government to put in there, and he runs that.
Has anybody else joined that Board of Peace yet?
There's some people. I think the Soviets have decided to join it.
Oh yes, okay.
All the peace supporters are going to be, all the peaceniks, I guess, Trump's peace buddies are going to be joining it. And
the guy from North Korea, is he going to be on it?
Why not? I think it's just Trump's friends that are going to be running it. That's it. The Board of Peace, PIECE maybe, or PEACE. I don't know. But so we're in the second. Listen, we definitely have superior equipment, the technology and the weaponry, and we can pound them, but you can't clear out the country. You're not going to. I don't see any revolution in Iran taking place. It seems like that the Iranians are upset with us. The people in Iran. Well, I mean, the Iranians in the U.S., of course, the descendants of the Shah of Iran, they want to see change, regime change, but it doesn't look like it's regime change taking place in Iran. What do you see happening there from what little we get?
Well, first of all, I want to say, I don't think I have ever seen an endeavor by any president that was not supported by people on the extreme left, the center, the right, or the hard right, okay? It is absolutely incredible to me how pessimistic people are about this war.
Right.
In fact, I probably know 20 people that I can talk to upfront, truthful, and there's only 2 out of the 20 that I know that support this endeavor. I'm one of them, and I won't reveal the other one, okay?
Right.
Obviously, this war has almost no support with the American people. That's Trump's fault. He didn't try to get the American people on his side. He simply, as soon as he was told that he could get rid of the entire leadership, he went and attacked them and started this war. Now, I happen to support the war. This country has been after us for 47 years. They took a lot of prisoners when they first took over the country, American prisoners out of the American embassy there. They killed over 200 Marines way back when, and they've been killing Americans and other people who oppose them uh, in the past 47 years. They also uh, have been threatening debt to Israel, debt to America. Okay. So I think we were perfectly justified in going and attacking these guys and trying to get rid of them. Now, I grant you that I know you don't support that position. And as I say, 80% of the people I know personally don't support it. And I think the highest total in a general poll that I've seen is about 28% of the American people support this endeavor. It's gone very, very well so far. But unless you get regime change, I don't think it's worth it. And you're not going to get regime change, I do not believe any longer, unless you put boots on the ground. And as soon as you put boots on the ground, you're going to even lose more support. And I don't know how much courage Trump has to keep prosecuting this war when he sees his poll numbers going down, down, down. I hope I'm wrong. I hope he can hang in there. I hope we get rid of the regime, put somebody in there that is more friendly to the United States, more friendly to their own people, and more democratic. And I don't believe that the son of the Shah is the man to do it myself. That's my opinion. I don't know who it should be, but to me, he's too closely associated with his father and his friends. And I know you have educated me on what a poor ruler the Shah was also. So I don't want to see his family come back in charge, but I don't want to see the people who are in charge now. I think that we are sending another 2,500 Marines there. I think their job is going to be to capture this island that actually all of the Iranian oil goes out through this island. Now, if we capture that, then they're stuck not being able to get rid of any of their oil, just like a number of other countries are stuck not being able to get rid of theirs because of Iran's closing down the straits there. So I think if we could seize that island, maybe we could finally get them to capitulate. That's my hope anyway. That's how I see the situation, Ray.
Well, to me, you sound like Robert McNamara back in the 60s when he said, hey, there's no way the Viet Cong are going to win. We're going to democratize Vietnam. These people are peasants. They wear sandals. We're going to go bomb the hell out of them, which is what we did for I don't know how many years. We pummeled that country, and still we took out their leaders. We couldn't get all of them because the Chinese protected a
We
number of
never
them.
got Ho Chi Minh, and he was the only real leader that the
And
North. We never got rid of him.
no, we didn't. That's what I'm saying, because he was in mostly with China and in North Korea most of the time. He was never in the battlefield. And we didn't target individuals back then the way we do now, which, by the way, I think borders on a war crime without accusing somebody, without making a case. You can't just kill somebody. I mean, somebody in a foreign country can say, well, this guy in the United States did this and this, and then they target the guy. That's a war crime, in my opinion.
You don't
But
think this guy did those things? You don't
no,
think this guy? You don't think he was the one that caused us to have all those hostages taken when the revolution first occurred 47 years ago? You don't think he was the one that killed
no,
those
I don't think, no,
Marines?
no, no, I don't. In fact, I think that 40 years ago,
Okay.
when you look at that history of the hostages at the American embassy, you find out that one reason
Yes.
why they were taken hostage was because Carter decided to allow the Shah to come in, who was running from the country. He was accused of crimes, and the Iranians demanded that he be brought back to Iran to face justice. That's what they
It would
demanded.
have been a
And
kangaroo court.
oh, like there isn't a kangaroo court now. I think the word kangaroo court comes from the American judicial system.
No,
Let's
it
be
does not.
honest. Yes, it does. It does. We have as many kangaroo courts, not all of them, but many. But the point was that they complained that if they don't bring back the Shah, they were going to take over the embassy, and they did. And I think they took a lot of hostages. They let some of them go, but they kept like 52 of them. And they said they would release them once Jimmy Carter was removed from office. So they ended up holding him for the entire remainder of Carter's term in office until Ronald Reagan won. And the day he was sworn in, they released all the hostages. So it was more of a political move. But listen, I want to go back to the Vietnam analogy because
Sure.
that that I think is really what we're forgetting. We think that because these are backward people in terms of technology, war technology, that we can just go in there, bomb the hell out of their leaders, destroy them, and free all these Iranians who will cheer us on and welcome us the way they did in Nazi Germany after the fall of the Nazis during World War II. That's not, I don't believe that's going to happen. I think the majority of Iranian people look at us as the warmongers because we're the ones that started the war.
We didn't
They
start the
call us,
war. They
well,
started the war 47 years ago.
I disagree with you. We started the war,
You're
and we
entitled to
want
your
to,
misguided opinion.
and you're entitled to your misguided opinion.
That's my
Iran
expression.
elected,
Get your own.
anybody out there can look it up. And Iran elected a Democratic leader, and the U.S. and Britain stepped in and took him out to replace it with
And
a
puts over
guy
the
that
communists in
who was
Russia.
a no, he was
Yes.
wanted to take control of the oil companies, and we accused him of being a communist, but he was elected in a democratic process. So yeah, there's a big debate about that, but it's a debate and it's not a certainty. Has Iran's
Well, you
government
presented it
since
so it is a certainty.
well, you did. I think you did. That's the problem with this issue. There's no middle ground looking at it from a middle ground.
Oh,
And
you're
I think that's
absolutely
where the
correct.
problem is. That's where the problem. But going back to the Vietnam War conflict,
Okay.
we thought we could go in there and destroy that country, take it over, and eliminate communism. That was the domino theory. We said if Vietnam falls, the whole region will fall. And I think that that's the mistake we're making. Instead of really negotiating in good faith with the Iranians, and in the middle of negotiations, while they were negotiating, he bombed and killed their leader. And
They
they've
were
done
just
that several
stalling for
times.
time. That's all they were doing. Come
What do you
on.
think negotiations are?
This is
Negotiations involve both
this is a
people on
bunch of
both sides.
evil people.
All right. Well, see, that's you can't get to the reality if you're going to demonize a whole nation of people because it's not
Oh, I'm
now
not
that all
saying
those
other people.
well, you are because all the evil people are dead, and now we're dealing with the new group of people,
You
and
mean
they're
that
suddenly the evil people.
you mean
And
that
then
30 million that the Ayatollah slaughtered in the streets when they were demonstrating for freedom?
yeah, there was no 30 million slaughtered
Oh,
in the
oh,
streets.
oh.
They arrested 1,000 protesters, and you compare that to the Shah of Iran, who arrested and killed 1 million people
What
during who we
publication do
backed,
you read?
who we backed.
It's just the daily news in Tehran that you
Uh,
read.
yeah, I don't know. Listen, you're not doing this. Is propaganda from the Trump administration, are you? You're not like his big PR guy. Look, the point I'm making is that we think we can go in and beat these people up, and then they're going to surrender to us. This is the one country I think that absolutely would be stronger than Vietnam in responding to us. The only way we're going to have to enforce our objective is to put boots on the ground. We can keep pounding them and spending $1 billion a day, and we've spent now, like they said, $30 billion so far. It's only been 10 days. So I'm a little concerned that there's no planning. This is done. It was shoot from the hip. There was no goal, And I think we're in trouble.
Well, you've just heard from the voice of Tehran, our fellow
Okay,
listeners.
let's hear
That's
from
it.
Mao. Let's hear from
One
Mao
thing,
Zedong. Go ahead,
one
Mao.
thing I want to make mention to you about the Vietnam War. You were talking about us bombing them into submission.
Yes,
We had 500,000 troops
yes,
in
we
that
did.
war, and we still didn't win it. Why didn't we win it? Because we had one hand tied behind our back. It's the same way we fought the Korean War. We haven't really fought a war to win since the Second World War.
That
That's one
was
of
the
our
big
problems.
excuse. That was the big excuse they made for their failure in Vietnam. And yeah, they we bombed the hell out of Vietnam. Remember that carpet bombing with the B-52s that LBJ put in. But also, it's true, we sent 500,000 soldiers into Vietnam, and we still couldn't win that war with 500,000 soldiers. We outnumbered them, and yet they persisted. So how is it that we're going to do better in Iran? That's what worries me, and I think a lot of people are looking at it saying the same thing. Is this it? There's no strategy. Well, forget about whether it's right or wrong. The president put us in a war without thinking. He just did it. He just decided we're going to go into this war, and I don't believe that there was planning.
I, I
And it's
noticed I noticed that you and AOC have the same talking points.
I noticed that. Yeah, you can't listen if you can't address the issues, Bill. I understand it's better to attack me and compare me with somebody that I don't agree with, but that's okay. But I'm telling you that this was poorly planned, bad leadership. At least in Vietnam, we had smart leadership, we had great planning, we had William Westmoreland, we had
Most people think Westmoreland was a terrible general in that war.
well, he turned out to be a terrible general, but and even Richard Nixon, the president, he wasn't a great president either. He had to quit because of crimes that he committed. But the point was, they sat down and planned it. You think Trump is any better than any of those guys? He was convicted of 34 felonies, and only because he was elected, those felonies were shunted aside. So I don't know. I think it's there's a rough we have a rough road ahead. And I think his strategy to bomb them into submission is not going to work.
Well, no, I agree with you. It's not going to work. We got to put boots on the ground. No question
And
about it.
I don't think anybody wants to send American soldiers
I
there
don't think
because,
so either. But that's the only way you're going to win this war now.
well, that was the argument that LBJ made about Vietnam when he took over after Kennedy died. He said the only way we're going to win this war is to put boots on the ground. And he sent 500,000 soldiers. Then we drafted everybody. They're talking about reinstituting the draft now. I wonder if that's going to apply to Trump's son or the son of these other people on the right that are, demanding and beating the drum for war. You're not going to see any of them fighting in this war. Of course, they don't care. They got nothing to lose. So there's a lot of skepticism on the part of a lot of the people in America because they're
Well,
not
since you and I
confident.
are not going to agree on this issue, why don't we move on to something that we might possibly agree upon?
All right, we can, and I don't mind it. So I'm not sure if we're going to agree on the U.S. Senate race to succeed Dick Durbin, but I think that we have three major candidates, right? Roger Krishnamurthy, we have Juliana Stratton, and we have Congresswoman Robin Kelly. Now, I personally like Robin Kelly because when I look at the records of the three of them, um, Robin has had, you can go on her website and see all the legislation she actually introduced that deals with everyday problems from families to health care to the economy and crime. And she actually, I think, this is just my opinion, when you go to Raja Krishnamurthy's congressional record, you wonder what did he support? And it's like these obscure general things. He signed on to a lot of bills, but he
Well, he was
wasn't
busy
like,
fighting and fighting and fighting and
to,
pushing and pushing and pushing.
yeah, to get people to pronounce his name, apparently. That was a big challenge, I guess. The guy raised over, I don't know, like $25 million. And to me, that's always a red flag. When somebody raises that much money and towers over the other, I think there's a
Well, he
problem
raises
there.
most of that money from the Indian community, and he's
Yes.
been raising that money for a number of years, Ray. So I don't really hold that much against him as far as the raising the money. Uh, at least the lieutenant governor gets her money in big chunks from the governor of the state of Illinois. But here, I don't like any of these candidates. So I can be very objective in who I think is going to win this. Uh, and I really thought that Raja would win it. And then Pritzker started putting all the money into lieutenant governor's campaign. And I thought, well, maybe she's got a shot. And she's closed the gap considerably. What has happened now, though, is that I have it from very reliable sources that there's a lot of money showing up in your candidate's race from the Indian community because they want her to run better than her poll shows so far.
Are you
Because the
talking?
better she runs, the poorer the lieutenant governor runs, the better for Raja.
Oh, you think Robin Kelly, in other words, they're
Yes,
directing money to help her because they want to
absolutely. Now
undermine Stratton.
this is what Pritzker did 4 years
Right,
ago.
right.
He wanted Bailey. That was the guy he wanted to run against. So he managed to put money in, dark money, into Bailey's campaign in order to win him the Republican nomination.
Right. Well, this is the way I look at it. Roger had a lot of money, began the campaign by promoting himself every day on TV. Um, and I think obviously that when they took polling, of course, he's the one name that people know. But I don't believe the polling. Just like signs don't vote, I think polling often isn't as accurate as, it may come across. I think when it comes down to issues, I think that some people are really kind of concerned and will, the turnout is extremely low. Maybe that will make it easy for money to buy the election. But I think that some people are wondering, what did Raja do? And I think a lot of people, when they look at Juliana Stratton, she seems like a nice person, but Governor Pritzker is the guy backing her. What has he done? This is the worst state in the country. We rank 49th out of 50 with the worst taxes and some of the worst services, in our state because of him. He's been our governor and hasn't done anything. I think that if reason were to prevail, I think uh, Robin would be the best candidate, Robin Kelly. I'm not sure that's going to happen, but she's the reason I support her because I think she's actually done something. Now, she doesn't have a lot of money, though, and I think that's a big problem. It's sad, and we're going to talk about this in the next segment, the impact of all this money coming in and what it's had on the elections.
Well, I think that unfortunately, Raja manages to hold on and win this race by a couple of points, primarily because of the money he's pumping into your candidate's
Right,
campaign in
right.
order to take votes away from the lieutenant governor.
I think that's a stupid strategy.
I
You know
don't.
what would be well, you know what would be a good
It worked
strategy?
for Pritzker 4 years ago.
Well, he has enormous, endless
He
amounts
does.
of money. He's very wealthy. But you know what would be a good strategy? Wouldn't it be nice to have a candidate get up there and instead of screaming about Trump, is there anybody in this state that really likes Trump? No. So instead of screaming about Trump, why don't we talk about how are you going to improve the economy in the state? How are you going to reduce taxes? What's your plan? And in my opinion, the only person that's addressing that is Robin Kelly. So it
Okay.
depends. If you hate Trump, if you're blinded by Trump hatred, yeah, Roger sounds like the best candidate because he says it enough. But if you're really worried about your property taxes, in my opinion, I think Robin Kelly would be the better candidate.
Okay.
All right, Bill. Let's take a break. Why don't we do that after this heated back and forth? I'm glad we're not in person because we probably
Yes,
would have gotten
absolutely.
in a fist fight over Iran. So, all right, let's take a break and we'll be right back right after these messages. And welcome back after Bill Lipinski and me, Ray Hanania. We took care of the bruises from that fight. It was kind of like a George Foreman, Muhammad Ali battle there for a while. It was pretty bruising. But the one of the talking about bruising fights, there's been a lot of dark money and a lot political action committee money and super PAC money that's been injected into the Illinois congressional races. And there was a story in the Sun Times this week and WBEZ, they did it together, where they listed all this money with generic names. You know, when you hear the name like the United Democracy Project, it sounds pretty good, right?
Sure does.
United Democracy. Yeah, it turns out that that's one of like about 20 PACs that was set up by the American Israel Public Affairs Committee. What they do is these are affiliated groups. I'm not sure what the legal setup is or relationship, but money that is intended to help candidates who agree with AIPAC's agenda to support the state of Israel or the government of Israel will get money, but it's called the United Democracy Project. There's another one here that has to do with women. I'm trying to find it. It's a very long list. It's called the Elect Democratic Women Action Fund, which is another affiliate of AIPAC, which is basically has one agenda. They want to elect candidates who support Israel, right? Israel's government, or oppose candidates who don't. That's their agenda. It has nothing to do with elect Democratic women. So that's one of the things that, is kind of, I think, blurring the election, the use of this money. And there are all kinds of PACs that they've affiliated with. The Chicago Progressive Partnership is one. The Affordable Chicago Now is one. These are AIPAC affiliated dark
Does it
money
say
funds.
what congressional candidates in the Chicagoland area have received the most amount of money from various AIPACs?
No, but I know that there is a list of which of these candidates have been receiving money. There have been a number of them that have been receiving money, like in the 7th congressional district where Danny Davis was. I think that's the 7th congressional district. There are 13 candidates. One of them, Melissa Conyers Irvin, I believe is her name. She's totally funded by AIPAC, and she has not shown up to any of the forums where the other candidates have been. She just has this money, which is in the millions, several $1,000,000, and she's inundating that district with mailers.
Well, I've seen a lot of commercials on television for her also.
Yes, and most of the candidates who you see on TV are candidates that are receiving these super PAC monies because television ads are very expensive. So the candidates that you're not seeing are the ones that are raising money from the grassroots. They may get a ad once in a while, but like when you see Raja Krishnamurthy, that's coming out of money that he's raised. But some of these other candidates, it's all coming out of this super PAC and dark money where you really don't know what they stand for. We support women or we support progressives. But that's not the real agenda, these names they put on them. And there apparently is nothing we could do about it. It's like it's just
Thanks
the
to
way
the
our
Supreme
elections.
Court. Yep.
Yeah, there's something wrong with it. I mean, in my opinion, and forget about the Middle East or Israel or AIPAC. We should never allow special interest super PACs to go in and inundate an election and just like overwhelm it with their money because that does have an impact on an election.
Oh, there's no question about it. Absolutely. In this day and age, without grassroots political organizations, money is the most important thing. There's no question about it.
But doesn't it get annoying to you when you see all these commercials like every minute of the day and on television? It's hard to watch TV. I find it annoying.
Oh, I agree with you. And I see just one after another, after another, after another. No, it gets to be boring. It gets to be tedious. And my solution to this problem is that we have to find some way of putting a cap on how much money a candidate can spend in a race.
Yeah, I agree
Now, I
with
don't
that. I
really
think
know
that's
how
a
to
great
do it
idea.
because of the rule of the Supreme Court, uh, but we have to find some way of doing it because right now the candidate almost means nothing. What is
Right.
important is how much money the candidates' people can raise and how many television ads they can get. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's not good for the country. Uh, it's also what we should try to do is figure out a way to allow independents to have greater access to the ballot. Right now,
Yeah.
you have two parties control almost everything. The way they write the laws for, like in Illinois, to run for Congress, I think it's maybe 1,500 signatures if you're running as a Democrat or a Republican. If you're running as an independent, I think it might be close to 10,000 signatures.
Right. Yeah. Right. That the system is made to protect itself, basically,
Absolutely.
and that's really wrong because the emphasis is on protecting the system, protecting a process that favors people that are in office, that control the system. You're right. There's no independent views. And it's not that the word independent is negative or positive, right or left. But, I'd like somebody that thinks openly and independently about some of these issues and has a reasonable approach to politics. We're not going to get that with the money that's being spent. And I have one rule though now that I've been following the last few elections. I won't vote for anybody who has more than 5 commercials a day on TV. If I see them on TV more than 5 times, I'm assuming that they've been bought off, that they don't care about me. They care about the person that wrote the check. Because when somebody gives you $5 million, don't you think that you're going to be responsive to them more than you will to the regular voter like you and me, where all we do is give them a vote?
You,
So
you
I,
are absolutely correct. And the biggest problem with Congress today is that they do not, individuals do not represent the people who sent them to Washington. They represent the leadership of the Democratic Party or the Republican Party.
right.
We need more people who are willing to cross over and support the other side. And to me, the only way to get that is elect more independents to office.
And that's why we have this unfortunate war in Iran because of that very principle. I had to slip that in, Bill.
Yeah, well, I noticed you did slip it in.
I'm just joking. So let's shift over to Ted Dabrowski and the Republican governor's campaign. There are obviously Pritzker is running for reelection. I think he's running for his third term, I believe,
That is
if
correct.
I'm correct. And then
First time today.
yes, and he is going to be challenged in November by a Republican, and there are 4 Republicans running: Darren Bailey, who's run many times before, and
He was their candidate last time.
yes, and he had this unfortunate accident where he lost members of his family, which is very
Yes.
tragic. That's always horrible. So you kind of feel a little sympathy for him, and he's still going. Maybe this is the only way to focus on, not get overwhelmed by this sorrow and tragedy. Rick Heidner, who is a big gaming person, is running, and a guy named James Mendrick, who I don't know. But I do know the fourth candidate, Ted Dabrowski, who used to be with the Illinois Policy Institute, which always came up with these great analysis of government policies and practices. If you wanted to understand how taxes were being abused, the Illinois Policy Institute always explained it and showed you how the money was being wasted and how we were being ripped off. So I started, and you mentioned him, I think, in the last podcast. I can't remember, but I looked at him and I thought, wow, this guy is, in my opinion, is really smart. I did some research on him. He's the only guy that out of all these candidates that's actually talking about the issues. He's talking about, for example, taxes are too high. So he singled out what he thinks is one of the major reasons for high taxes, and that's our schools are not being properly run. our schools account for 60 to 70% of our property taxes. But when you look at the school districts, you find that these superintendents who are not elected and this circle of administrators, it could be as many as 20 to 100 administrators at some of these high schools, they're making salaries of up to $450,000 a year. And then you look then, like for example, the Dalton School District 148, the superintendent there is making 450,000. The student proficiency in reading is only 19%. It's one of the lowest in the state.
Now what does
Why?
that 19% mean? There's
That
only
19%,
19% are reading at their proper grade level.
correct. They're just not proficient. They're not understanding. They're not reading they're reading at a second grade or third grade level. And and it gets better. In fact, it's so bad in Chicago that the Chicago Board of Education and the Illinois high school, the Illinois State High School Society, I can't remember the name of the organization, they've introduced a change to lower the acceptable proficiency rate even more. It's like at 40%, and I think they want to bring it down to like 30 because they can't get the kids to rise up in their proficiency. They want to bring the proficiency threshold lower so that the kids can achieve it because they can't seem to get these kids to be taught properly. And I'm not blaming the teachers because these teachers really work hard. They're they're the ones that should be getting the money, not these administrators and superintendents. And one last point, Bill, that Dabrowski makes. In Illinois, there are 850 school districts. Imagine superintendents in each of these school districts when you're talking about 850, how much money they're making. In Florida, which has the same number of schools, they only have 74 school districts, which means they only have 74 superintendents. And either of those schools run better than our schools. And we need to change our schools. And I thought, here's a guy that actually is honing in on something that I think is really important. Instead of just screaming about, he doesn't like the Democrats or, that Biden, the Republicans are going to attack the Democrats and the Democrats are going to attack the Republicans. He's actually talking about solutions.
Well, I think Ted is a very smart fella. I think he hits on a number of very, very important issues. And unlike many other candidates, he seems to have an answer to a number of these because he has studied them. He's worked with organizations that have studied them. So I think he could be an excellent governor. I just don't see, though, how he possibly beats Bailey because of Bailey's name recognition. 4 years ago, Bailey was the candidate that Pritzker wanted to run against. So Pritzker poured a lot of dark money into his campaign for governor, and he won because that's who Pritzker felt would be the easiest to beat. Now, this year, Pritzker is much more secure in his position, so he doesn't really care who the Republicans put up. He figures he's going to be perfectly safe. And I think all of us agree that the midterm elections, when Pritzker will be running he won't be running in midterm, excuse me, but most people believe that in the midterm elections, the Democrats are going to recapture the House of Representatives. And I tell you, because of this war, which you oppose and I support, that very well could also cost the Republicans the U.S. Senate. So
Yeah, I
I really want to see divided government. Divided government is the best government for the people.
Yeah, so Darren Bailey, I think, ran for governor in 2022. He was a member of the Illinois Senate. And you're correct. Pritzker used his money to kind of focus him as the Republican candidate. It's amazing how a Democrat can influence the Republican Party, but this is a blue state in Illinois.
Oh, yeah,
The
absolutely.
Republican Party is in total disarray. There's a big fight in Orland Park, in Orland Township, where the Pekow, the former mayor who was thrown out of office after 2 terms, is trying to hold on to the Republican control of the Republican Party there, and Liz Gorman is trying to fight to take it back. She's a more moderate, centrist Republican, but it is a battle between extremism and common sense, in my opinion. And the Republicans, though, because of this internal fighting, can't seem to make their mark in Illinois. So the Democrats decide everything. You know, when a Democrat wins the primary on March 17th, it's pretty much a 9% certainty that they will be elected in November. What's the point of having the election for most
Oh,
of
that's
these
very
races?
true.
Yeah, so it is. So, I mean, you're absolutely right. We should have a two-party system. We should have a strong Republican Party in Illinois because that's the only way we can keep the Democrats from exploiting their power and pretty much becoming ruthless and tyrannical in the way they run things. A lot of great Democrats, don't get me wrong.
Iranians, yes.
Iran, Iranians. Yeah, we don't want them to become Iranians or Israelis, okay?
Uh,
Um,
do you have a choice in the assessors, the Democratic Party's assessor?
yeah, see, now that's an interesting race to me. Fritz Kagi has been the assessor for 8 years. And his commercials, when he's been the assessor, he set the assessment on your property and my property. He sets it. And that assessment sets the property tax. So when he increases the assessment on us, our property taxes increase. And as you know, property taxes have increased dramatically over the last 2 or 3 years under his rule. And his only answer is that the guy
Yes,
running against him is taking money from realtors. And I'm going, what does it have to do with my property taxes?
yes.
What are you going to do to reduce property? He won't address that. So that's why I am supporting Pat Hines. He's been an assessor for years. He worked in the assessor's office when Kagi came in. After, I don't know, a year or two, he quit because he said that Fritz Kagi bought the office. He's wealthy, you know, one of these big financial investors who made a lot of money on the finance investment market. He bought that office by winning, you know, using his money to win that office. After, what was the guy's name who was the assessor?
Hi.
Barrios, was it?
Oh,
No, no.
oh, no,
Yeah,
Barrios. Yes, Joe.
Barrios who was under a cloud of controversy, and
And
Kagi
prior
was
to
able to
him,
get
it
in.
was Hines that was the.
Yes. Now Hines, I felt, you know, we both knew him very well.
Yes, we did.
Tom Hines was a great guy. He was a good assessor.
I
Our
agree.
taxes were pretty stable. I mean, they did go up, but nothing the way they're going up today.
And the
But
Hines that's
Pat,
running now is Tom Hines's brother's son.
right,
Right,
he's a nephew, I believe.
right.
But he worked in the assessments for
Yes, he
his
did.
whole life, and he worked under Kagi after he was elected and quit because he said Kagi was incompetent, that he didn't know what he was doing. And I think, listen, Kagi had 2 terms. He hasn't, in my opinion, he hasn't done a great job. Let's get somebody new in. It doesn't matter whether he has
We
a
finally
history or
agree.
whatever.
Yes, you are correct.
Yes,
I
we
agree with
finally
you.
agree. Pat Hines for president of the United States. Maybe he would probably bring sanity to this country too. Hopefully, he wins the election on March 17th and helps to redress this property tax burden that we're facing, which is horrible.
What about president of the Cook County Board? You have any opinion on that race?
You know what? I honestly I like both of the candidates, Brendan Riley and Tony Preckwinkle. Preckwinkle has been around forever. She was the alderman of the fourth ward, I think, when I met
She
her at
was
City Hall. Great, a very smart person.
very
Uh,
nice person too.
yeah, I mean, she did do a couple dumb things. She wanted to increase the
So
tax on soda pop,
yeah,
which, you know, she needed money. I hate the way the government, and it's Democratic run in Illinois, whenever there's a problem, their only solution is let's throw money at it.
absolutely.
Let's raise property taxes. No, how about we address the problem? That's something, unfortunately, we don't do.
But the Republicans, what they want to do is cut services, cut services.
True. The Republicans are, they're exploiting the extreme
Right.
headline. That's what they're doing. They're not, and I think that's one reason why they're they're not doing very well in this state. I'm hoping Ted Dabrowski can show that he's a reasoned person, although he doesn't have a lot of money. There's not much time left in the election. But if he manages to survive in the primary, although Heidner has a lot of money and Darren Bailey has a lot of popularity, and name recognition, it's going to be tough.
I think it would be good for Illinois if Ted could possibly win. I don't know that he can, though, unfortunately. I'm talking about win the primary. I don't think anybody can beat Pritzker at the present time for governor.
Pritzker has millions. He has so much, right?
Unbelievable. That's why we got to get back to cutting down how much money can be spent in these elections.
Well, listen, Bill, we wish everybody a happy St. Patrick's Day.
By all means.
This week. And we urge everybody to go out and vote on March 17th, which is today's Saturday. So the election is Tuesday. So thank you for listening. I'm Ray Hanania.
I'm Bill Lipinski, and this is Two Guys on Politics. And from one fellow Irishman to another, happy St. Patrick's Day.
Have a great week, everybody. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.